And welcome to the Deuce Podcast. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jeremy.
And Jeremy, we are doing episode 117. But before we do that, we need to say that we were in the middle of our quills.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And we didn't get to review Rogue One.
Yeah.
Which was a interquel.
Interquel.
Right. And for people who don't know, an interquel is
a movie that takes place between two other movies.
So obviously it's taking place between, I would say, 3 and 4. Episode 3 and 4.
Yeah, between
mostly
Revenge of the Sith and
mostly like right at the
A New Hope.
edge of beginning of 4.
Yes,
you would say.
Correct. Yep.
I say it's just the scrawl of 4.
It is. It's basically the crawl of 4.
Yeah. So we didn't get to do that one because it's October. We like to do a series of thriller horror movies that go along together. So we had to put that on halt. We might go back and review Rogue One. But in the meantime, we are doing our Ghost sequels for October. So this is going to be fun. Ghost sequels, Jeremy. What do you say about that?
Boo.
Boo. Boo. All right. So we are actually doing the 2014 sequel to The Woman in Black. The Woman in Black 2, The Angel of Death.
Yes.
Yes.
That is the one.
Yes. You can stream this on Netflix. Okay. You can.
You can.
You can.
But should you?
We're going to let you know where you should do that or not through our review, or you just make up your own mind. 4.8 on IMDb. That's not a big rating.
Surprised.
This movie you said was released direct to video in America, but in England it wasn't.
Like with a lot of sequels, the same thing happened with Bambi too.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually theatrically released in Europe and in the UK. But in the States, it went direct to Blu-ray and DVD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But what?
Nothing.
But do you have a plot synopsis about this movie?
I do have a plot synopsis. Yeah. 40 years after Arthur Kip's experience at Eel Marsh House, a group of children under the care of 2 women, escaping from war-torn London, arrive to the house and become the next target for the ghost of Jeanette Humphrey, otherwise known as the Woman in Black. With the help of a fellow soldier, the women and children must fend off the spirit of Jeanette Humphrey and end her presence once and for all.
Once and for all. That was actually more exciting than the movie.
Yes.
With that review.
Yeah, it makes it sound action-packed.
Action-packed. Like we said, this movie is streaming on Netflix. It's from 2014. It is a Tom Harper directed movie, and based on the Daniel Radcliffe movie from 2012. Correct?
Yeah.
This is a sequel. This is about 40. You would say 40 years later?
It's supposed to take place 40 years later.
Yeah, during World War II.
Yeah, it's like 41.
Right.
Bombing of London.
Right. Stars not really that big names. I don't really know that many big names in this. Phoebe Fox plays Eve, who is our main heroine, you would say.
Yeah.
And
Helen McCrory is probably...
Helen McCrory's probably like the big one. She's actually married to Damian Lewis from Homeland. And you can believe that.
Yeah, and she was Draco Malfoy's mom in the Harry Potter movies.
So probably that one people would know.
Adrian Rollins, he's done some stuff too. He plays like that doctor who drives the bus for them.
Yeah.
Adrian Rollins also was in the Harry Potter movies. He played James Potter, Harry Potter's dad.
Was there anyone that was British that was not in Harry Potter movies?
It's like the Law and Order of the Law and Order of movies.
James
like
Corden?
everybody.
I swear, like right?
No, James Corden was not.
Yeah. All those people from Gavin and Stacey.
Which makes you wonder: is he really British?
Is he really British?
If you were not in a Harry Potter movie, are you even in the UK?
You're not British. It's like a testament if you were British.
Yes.
Right?
That is
like
true.
back in the day, it was like, were you in upstairs, downstairs? Then you were British.
Yes.
now it's like Harry Potter and
exactly.
Downton Abbey, stuff like that. Should we tell everyone that we're on the No Phony Podcast Network?
We should tell everybody that. So we are on the No Phony Podcast Network. It is independent awesomeness. We have the Ragtag group of podcasts.
Ragtag.
We
sound like we're the Bad News Bears
of podcasts. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. There's actually, if you go to nophonynetwork.com, there is a great video that basically talks about the movies and what's not movies, the podcasts and what's going on there. It's like a cinematic marvel. It's wonderful. You should go check it out.
Who's that starring?
The podcast logos.
Oh, is it?
Mostly.
Oh, I thought, okay. Yeah. I was just thinking Loop Dog would be in it.
He
Loop
probably,
Dog!
LOPDOW.
Loop Dog!
Loop Dog! But
as Buttermaker.
Yeah. So I wanted to call out so Talking Codswallop.
Oh yeah. Call them out.
Talking Codswallop is having their 2-year anniversary.
Yay, 2 years for them.
And so
listen to those guys. Please do that.
They've released a best of episode with special guests and never heard before audio and things like that. So definitely check that out. If you haven't listened.
One of their special guests was Ralph. What's his fucking? I love that guy. He was a comedian. He actually hosted the Joe Schmo show. Can't think of his name right now. God, he was great. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely check them out. I mean, if you've not listened, like Gemma and the rest of her team do like an excellent job.
Yes.
They're a required listen. So make sure you go and listen to Talking Codswallop to their 2-year anniversary episode, or just start from the beginning. You have a lot to catch up on, so just make your way through it.
Yeah, pace yourself. This isn't, don't binge it.
Yeah,
it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. We got everything.
We got everything
too. So just
speaking of a marathon and not a sprint, but we wish it was. It's the Woman in Black 2, the Angel of Death
2.
Let's drop the deuce on this, shall we?
Oh, I'd like to drop a big steam
drop more than deuce on this one. So we open up, the bombs are going off. It's World War II, right?
Yeah.
And we're in one of those shelters that you see all the time in movies.
Well, and it's a classic. Well, now we see it a lot. I think it's hard for like American audiences to kind of conceptualize, but when the Germans were bombing London in World War II, they had tough things going on. The houses were getting blown up.
Look, I've seen Mrs. Midivere. Okay, I know.
But a lot of times, people were going to the countryside, were leaving just so that they were out of London, where these attacks were happening.
Right.
Especially children,
yes,
were being sent to stay with families, or if they were orphaned, they were being sent away to schools where they would be teaching them, almost like a boarding school thing, away from the destruction. So
and, that's kind of how our characters get to where they're going.
Yeah,
correct, because she is our main character. Eve is kind of this kind of, what does she work for? Is she like a teacher or something?
Yeah, she's a teacher.
Okay, I didn't quite get that.
Yeah,
but,
it's like I think they work for the British Defense kind of.
Okay, that makes sense.
So basically, she's like the assistant, the assistant, whatever, and then there's a headmistress who's like the main teacher.
Yeah.
Who, basically, there's an attack in London. They say, okay, we need to get these kids out of here. They are loading them on a train to head out, and these kids didn't have family members outside of London, where they can go stay, so they have to take them somewhere. So in this case, a lot of times you have places where they volunteered to take on kids, where they were trying to do their part.
Sure.
This one, and these kids had nowhere to go, so they decided to take them to Eel Marsh House.
Because that's, take them to a murder house. Why don't we?
Yeah, a house that nobody has been in for the whole town is abandoned.
Right. So you would think, maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah,
because no one's gonna bomb like a town.
Well, but they still have like decoys out there.
That's true. That is kind of that's weird, but that's a little side plot. That's kind of like this movie is a little bit I would say jagged in its plot. Like it kind of goes up and down where you're like, where are you going with this a little bit? Look, we both decided that this is a fine acted movie. These are actors who know their craft, right?
Yeah.
They're giving something and they're saying it up on screen.
I'm really conflicted about this one.
But I'm very the plot is kind of all over the point on this one. And basically this movie is just called Jump Scare. There's a lot of jump scares in this movie, right?
Yes. Well, okay, so I'll say I've seen plenty of movies where there are jump scares.
Yes.
But they are purposeful jump scares.
Right.
And usually you do a false jump scare to get people
heightened,
and then to let their guard down,
right?
And then you do the real jump scare.
You do the real jump scare,
because all that tension builds.
Right.
You want them to drop it so that they really get shocked.
But the whole time I was looking for the real jump scare,
and it wasn't happening,
and it didn't happen in this movie.
No, and even then, occasionally they would do a in the background you would see something, or you would see and it was just nothing that was
seen all
jumpy enough for the actual stuff.
It's like someone going to the sink. Getting something out of the medicine cabinet and then closing it. And oh no, the ghost is behind them now in the mirror.
Yeah.
We've never seen that before.
Yeah.
If you've seen that, which is not in this movie, by the way, but I'm just saying, we've come accustomed to things in horror movies to where it's this is almost a cliche of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just was not happening. It was really awkward. I will say, some things this movie does do, it does not pull punches with, killing children.
No, I was pretty shocked, because remember, I was just how far cast are children? And if sequels tell me anything, is that the body count goes up. And so are we going to kill children? I mean, really? And we do. And so,
but that happens in the first movie, too, though.
That does happen in the first movie, yeah. But it's not like we never really see the children, I don't know how to say that.
Yeah,
it's not torture porn, right?
Yeah,
which is great because we don't want to see that, and it's not heightened for a reason that it's to shock, which is fine. Right. You know what I mean? Which is good because because killing children off is pretty touchy anyway, right?
Yeah.
So having said that, that's fine and dandy, but this falls flat. This movie really does fall flat. A lot of times the jump scare happens, like you were saying, you're like, okay, the music's starting. All right, it's going, and then the music cuts off, and then the jump scare happens.
Yep.
It's I went on this, I don't do rides very well on amusement parks, and someone talked me into doing one of those where it shoots up in the air. Right? Yeah. And then you come down and you bounce up and down. I noticed when we were in line, every time that the guy working it did this to the employee, that's when it shot up. So I had anticipated everything. So I knew when it was going to happen because I'm really scared of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I pre-planned all that in my head. That's what I feel like this is doing. It's we don't want to be too scary.
I don't think that's what they were trying. I think they were
they really thought that would scare us.
Well, I think they thought
I don't know.
I think they didn't know how to to do the scares. Because really, you don't fight the woman in black. You didn't in the last movie either. The first one had a lot of jump scares, but the first one also relied a lot on on the environment being creepy, we spent a lot more time
that's what I mean. The first one, which is very gothic to begin with, which I like gothic horror.
Yeah,
kind of relied on the fact of the aestheticness of the setting in a way that helped blend into what they were doing. Mm-hmm. So the jump scares or the scares in that seemed to be more heightened in a way that I felt was more authentic, and perhaps Yeah, Daniel Radcliffe's acting though helped that as well too. Not that these are bad actors in this movie, but Daniel Radcliffe's on kind of a different level than most people, just because of his instincts that he has. So having said that, it just seems like setting this like 40 years later, and where it's all kind of like grody, and I don't know, that just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, like, and the house before, yeah, like you said, it was just gothic, and now it's like
just garbage. Now it's like hoarders.
Yeah.
Minus not everything in it, but it's like it's corroded, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a typical creepy house.
Yeah.
Like there's no history to it, because the history is all corroded in a way. Right. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, no, I don't prefer that too much.
And like, I almost would rather have like spent more time talking about the village.
I honestly would too, because that was more creepy to me when we saw the guy with no eyes when she went to the village.
The blind guy, yeah.
The blind guy. Sorry. Yeah, the blind guy.
I mean, he had
with
eyes.
No vision.
Yeah.
Sorry, not no eyes. And like all the children that had died were with him.
We're still haunting.
We're all still haunting. I was more about that. And so I'm thinking, like, you know me, and mythology of stories. Like, I think there's more of a mythology in the village than there is the house.
Yes.
And so you can still do a woman in black, but can't she go, can't you just, because we have to go back to the house.
Yeah.
Not only once, but like later on in the movie, we go back to the house.
Yeah.
So she just always connected with that house then?
She was getting the kids in the village before.
That's what I mean. So it's like, why can't we just have the kids? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It made no sense. This movie also was supposed to, I don't know if you read this, but the original script had it be like an asylum.
Yeah, like the house was supposed to be a mental hospital for soldiers. Which
actually probably would have been better.
Yep.
I think. Because, again, you're laying the groundwork. You know, this is just like that creepy corner of like a basement.
Yeah.
Of a house that you don't want to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it might be creepy, but whatever.
I thought that too, because I had read that, but my problem with that is the lady or the woman in black is so tied to like kids as part of her deal that I don't know if the mental hospital thing would have worked, because they're, you know, unless you have children there too or something tied to that. Right. I don't know how that would have gone down. I just don't think it would have worked quite as well.
Yeah. I agree too. Like, I think it's just so, I don't know, like the way that the jump scares coincide with the aestheticness of the plot, right? It just didn't work. It was almost like I wanted it to be gothic again.
Yeah.
Like, okay, set it couple years later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just didn't work for me. I needed something more real. I needed there to be history with the house.
Well, okay, so I liked the fact that it skipped forward. Mm-hmm. The way that they all of a sudden, like, the house was just like, I don't know, just the whole, like, especially in the 40s, like, that a whole town is abandoned and whatever seems odd to me.
Yeah.
It almost would have been cooler, I think, if the town had been abandoned and you had these people moving to the village to, this will be your temporary residences, and then like multiple families being haunted or something.
Right.
Like
I don't know why we just needed the house.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's so iconic through the first movie.
Well, yeah. And then they were like, there are other kids coming. They'll be here, you know, in a while. But I don't know how long they were even there. Yeah. Like, I thought they were there a while, but
sure. Let's talk about the look of this movie, especially the lighting that happens.
Yeah. So
sometimes
I do want to say, like, overall, like, I thought there were well set up shots. I thought there were like, it's again so tough because I think they were like, let's do this thing cinematically. You know, I think just like how the acting I think is good. Mm-hmm. I think like some of the shots and everything are good. But just how like the actors suffer at the hands of like the script where they're doing stupid things. Good actors, bad script. I think good cinematically, but like bad lighting.
Mm-hmm.
It is so dim that you can't see what's happening half the time. And I think that there's a couple times where there's supposed to be, like, you can see the woman in black, like, behind them, but it's so faint, it's, like, kind of pointless.
Like, I was like, is that her? It was almost like Where's Waldo, but with just white fog and, like, trying to, like, you should be able to see a woman in black and white fog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to. That seems like, hey, that's a given.
It was just poorly lit.
It was very poorly lit. And a lot of times, like, even in the house, I was just like, what? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I think that I mean, obviously, that hurt this movie. This movie, it's not up to snuff that it should be. It's not, how you say, a movie that someone should watch because they want to watch horror movies in October, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of other horror movies that you should watch. Even the first one.
Yeah, watch the first one instead of
I remember enjoying the first one.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but like I remember at least enjoying it enough.
Yeah, it's just a gothic horror.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can get behind it. This one.
But that's what I mean. Like, I loved the gothic aspect of it, right? There was this resurgence of like this gothic horror that was happening during that time. You know what I mean? You got like Nicole Kidman and the others, and like you had this movie where it was kind of like towards the end of that, where it was like, you know, where you have kind of like that creepiness because it's kind of like this unknown because it happens towards the turn of the century where like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that feeds into just anxiety of people as well. And so I think that works for a plot, but having the World War II thing and then not really kind of deal with World War II. And then, by the way, the end of the movie, it's like, oh, World War II is done.
Yeah,
the bombing
weirdest
stopped.
Part.
She adopts the one kid, and she's like, okay, the end.
Yeah.
Except it's not the end because we have another jump scare. But I love how it's like, oh, everyone's just walking the streets.
Yeah.
Oh, the bombing must be done. We don't even have any. Like, the kid didn't grow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we didn't have like a thing that said like 3 years later. We didn't even know like what part of, you know, like what year this is. I mean, it just was kind of like.
Yeah. Well, the kid the whole time has been silent and everything, and you know, we learned that the heroine has given up a child, had a child taken from her when she gave birth because she was so young, and so she's taken on the main little boy and has to fight the woman in black to get him back. And of course the hero, like the supporting hero of the story, ends up sacrificing himself to save them. Fine. But yeah, it's just like, what for? Like, you don't see them, like, all of a sudden they're like in like brightly lit clothing and like the house is like immaculate, especially for like in London that's been bombed. And so like, what do you know, like, okay, so you have this flat and, you know, like,
it's the best lit part of the whole movie. It's just like the
war is over now, or
war is over.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. She adopts the kid, and then you're thinking, oh, this is nice.
Yeah,
so we get like a nice little because everything kind of, as much as like the plot frustrates me, and it's not that great of a plot. Don't get me wrong. Everything does come together for it. Like, she adopts a kid because she, like, her history is that she lost a kid in birth.
Yeah,
he's an orphan. We get that. The one, the pilot guy saves them, but sacrifices himself.
Yeah,
because he was considered
deemed a coward because he had PTSD.
That all makes sense in a way, even though it's not really. It just feels like it's executed in a way where it's just, let's just tack that on. Let's just put that on right at the end, right? But I just feel like, why?
Yeah,
because it's just like, why do we have to tie that up? And then why do we have to be all like, and war is over, and I adopted him. Oh, but wait, we're gonna go back to the place where they were, and it's not over yet because boom, the one picture cracks, and it's the woman in black.
Yeah.
So we assume that it's going to be a
now
third movie?
Followed them to fucking London?
And then she followed them? And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me.
So, yeah.
That cheapens the movie really, like, a lot.
It does. It makes it even worse.
Yeah.
And, like, as we got to that scene, I was like, okay, good. They got away or whatever.
Because I was excited.
Because even, like, in the original... Daniel Radcliffe, spoiler, Daniel Radcliffe dies and his son does too.
How dare you?
But at least they're reunited with his
right.
dead
If
wife.
I remember correctly, on the train aspect, there's like a scene with a train.
Yeah, they get hit by a train.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, but at least like you see them in the afterlife being reunited. So there's
That's
a happy
true.
aspect to it. Like it's a happy, sad thing.
Right.
And you get that here
Which
a
is
little
very
bit too.
British to me, a happy, sad kind of thing.
You get that here a little bit too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that last jump scare is just so cheap. And even then, like the jump scares are so pointless in this movie, mainly because
pointless.
You know, you said the thing about where you'd see the guy motion, and you knew that's how something would slingshot.
Yes. But that's the music.
The audio editing on this is also very bad, and so here's what's happening. So I'll demonstrate for you.
Well, I
listeners.
told everyone you like when the music would go. That's where the music would stop. Wait, do we need to rewind? I said this at the beginning of the podcast.
I was doing other things, like dreaming of.
Were you dreaming of like ice cream cones and like something else?
I was dreaming of.
Were you dreaming of actually watching the Women in Black one?
Yes, I was. Actually,
I would be too.
I was thinking about how much that movie was so much better.
But I agree with you. Like but that's a better ending than like this movie. Even if you don't have the jump scare at the end of the movie, because it is happy, sad. It's more the way it is.
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you. Like there's moments. There's a bird hits a door. It's a
window.
Window, whatever. Same thing. We've seen this before.
Yeah.
Anything that like. I hate to do this because it's like I appreciate people like making movies because I wouldn't know the first step of doing it. But I'm just kind of amazed that in 2014 we were still making horror movies like this, to where it was just like there was nothing to it. Do you know what I mean? Because I can't imagine like people going, "You really need to see Woman in Black too." Those jump scares were amazing. That kid in that gas mask scared me.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like British kids are like, I get like the aspect of British kids are creepy, but that's overdone too, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, British kids are creepy. Oh no.
Well, okay, so I think that the whole difference is like, yes, jump scares can be frightening and used in the right way, of course, definitely. But that's not the only thing that made just looking at the first movie, that's not the only thing that made it creepy. There's the environment, the story behind it. Like there's just these elements like in the first one, there was the feeling of like the isolation that added to the tension because they said,
there was because you couldn't,
when the tide would come in,
there. Yeah.
You couldn't get across, like you were stuck there.
I liked that because, like, to me, that was almost like a jump scare in a way that it heightened the situation.
Yeah.
Where you're stuck in this house and you can't get away.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This, I'm like, you just drive off and go wherever to, the town.
Yeah,
so.
And they kind of mentioned, the tide's coming in, but you never actually, like, deal with it.
Not
it
really.
doesn't become like a... The tide is not like a character like it was in
the
the
character of the pilot. But that's about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like backstory with these characters that they keep saying, but it's almost to the point where like I don't really like most of these characters or have invested a lot of time for them.
They're not bad characters.
They're not bad characters, but I just don't care about them that much.
Yeah.
They're not great either. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like where I can invest my time with it. So.
Right. I mean, they're not like bad characters as in bad people.
No.
They're good people.
They're good people.
But it's kind of like they're so,
but also like
they're
I need
so
them
like
to, like
one-dimensional.
up some value to them, so I'm investing my time in them. which is not happening in this movie. Should we do our 5 questions, shall we?
Yes.
I always say, shall we do our 5 questions?
By the way...
Go ahead.
By the way, did you also see the thing about there was supposed to be a third one?
Yeah, well, I was kind of just stopping that so we could mention that when we were like, should we reboot it or whatever? Okay. We could talk about it then.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
You know, just jump the gun. Why not?
Because I was thinking about that while we were watching it. I was thinking about that
too, but I wanted to talk about that when we were doing our 5 questions because I'm actually intrigued by that.
Yes, I am too.
Okay.
So what did you think was the best part of the movie?
Can we skip that and can we go to the acting? The acting actually is probably the best part of this movie. There are some directing choices that are okay. This is a director that should stick to TV, and he's done like Peaky Blinders.
Yeah,
but there's like I just feel like he would be good at hour-long stories and not like half hour or 2 hours or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the acting is probably the best part. And as far as Eve's fine. Like she's fine. Like she acts fine. She's, but I kind of really enjoyed the other teacher a little bit more.
Yes, very much so.
I thought she was probably the best of.
I would agree.
She has a good moment where she's like, I should have trusted you. I should have believed in you. Do you know what I mean? Like that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Helen McCrory has a good, like she's the other headmistress, Jean. She has this interesting moment, but again, you don't like.
Yeah, but nothing comes from that.
Yeah, nothing comes from it. But there's this whole scene where she's again talking about her sons. Her husband's is a brigadier general. Her son's enlisted, and Eve's like, "Can I see a picture of him?" She's like, "I remember what they look like." So, like, basically kind of like putting an end to the conversation. Like, I remember what they look like. But and Eve's still talking about it. But, like, I think that, like, Helen McCrory does such a good job with subtext. You get the feeling her sons are dead.
Right.
But she's not saying that. And she's not, like...
It's almost like she doesn't want
she's
to
not being emotional. She's being very British emotion-wise.
Yes very much so.
She's being very, like... prim and proper,
stoic about it.
Yeah, she's not saying these things. She's just
because if I say it, it's real.
Yes,
and I don't want it to be real.
And everybody's had a hell of a time. Like she's trying to be stiff upper lip about it, and so, she. So
is she your favorite part of the movie?
I think so.
That's mine.
Well, I think that overall the acting is fine. Like even the kids.
The kids are great too for what they're doing. Yeah,
they do it. Yeah. They do a really good job. They do the best they can with a script that's probably lacking. But I think Helen McCrory, out of all the actors with this, I think is by far the best.
I think that the pilot guy, I can't think of who the actor is, did a fine job.
Jeremy Irving.
Yeah, these are fine actors.
Yeah.
But I also feel like these are actors that, if given the chance, they would be almost like side characters in Shakespeare. And so they would have, enough gumption to enough, pedigree in them to do what's expected of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question 2?
Reboot, continue, or cancel?
Well, this is what we were going to talk about. They were going to talk about A Woman in Black 3.
Oh, they were?
Yeah, set about 40 years later. I don't know why all these movies are going to be set 40 years later, but we were talking about 1983.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested in that, to tell you the truth. Only because I love the 80s.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what that would look like. Because I kind of wanted maybe this throwback of and granted it wouldn't be American 80s, but it would be, British 80s.
Right.
But you could really kind of throw that back. And I think that would be interesting in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And still keep some of the mythology of the first movie and even some that they build here, but not a lot. What do you think?
I thought the same thing, as we were watching it. And I thought, 40 years. And I thought, 40 years later would be the 80s.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wouldn't it be cool like if like there was another movie that took place further mythologically, but like maybe this is that whole area, because it already looks dilapidated 40 years later.
Right.
So another 40 years later, like all that stuff's probably going to be gone. It'll probably be like caved in and whatever, like the remnants of this town.
Yeah, but what if like someone goes in and like just updates it and tries to make like a bed and breakfast of it or something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Basically, we'll taking all that stuff out to be torn down. It's all rotten and looking whatever. But like they build more of like a contemporary kind of like getaway or city, or like, you know, this is kind of our seaside villagey type thing, you know, and then making more of a plot for the hey, here's this island, or hell, go to the you know, this is like a rehab or like mental
or something like that
down the road there too. Like, I mean, whatever it is, but like I like the idea of like not just happening like rapid fire one after the other. I like the idea of time taking place between each one.
I do too, but this movie doesn't make me want to watch a third movie. But them saying that it's 40 years later and like they wanted to do one, that makes me want to watch a third one. But this movie doesn't.
Yeah.
If they did do a third one, they really need to like kind of like change the title to like maybe kind of trick us to make it seem like we're not watching a third Woman in Black movie.
Agreed.
But then go, oh shit, we're watching a third Woman in Black movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just be kind of creative in it, because come on, you know, horror's having to come back and just do something different with it.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So I could see it going.
Yeah,
but this movie doesn't make me want to think that it should go. If I was just watching this,
no. Or like I could see like maybe a la more of like the old like Friday the 13th kind of series, you know, like the series itself, like do like an anthology show where it's just stories about like kids and hauntings and whatever.
No, I don't see that. I see these like being isolated movies that are kind of like, you know, like not on top of each other, but like 40 years later. I don't know. I don't like the anthology of it. I think there's too much at risk to screw up. I think that these need to be contained in 2-hour movies. I don't know. That's just me though. That's what I think.
I already think it's screwed up, so I don't think an anthology would hurt it anymore. I think it's screwed up anyway. But go ahead. Does this movie stand on its own?
I think it does, to tell you the truth. There's not a lot from the Daniel Radcliffe that I really needed to know. Just maybe the house itself.
Yeah. If they would have...
even that, like, it's kind of not really explained.
You don't even tie it to it at all.
Right, they don't really tie it to it. Now, I find that, like, the worse the movie is, the least tied to the original that it is. A lot of times. No, not every time, but sometimes that happens.
Yes. And I will say, like, even the village, like, you don't hear what's happened to the village between, you basically, the blind guy kind of, like, says that his friends have died, meaning the other kids, but you don't talk about, like, they don't talk about, like, then everybody moved away, or then whatever happened. Like, you don't discuss any of that.
But why not have Edward 40 years later, you know, he's, you know, has to go and he realizes, oh shit, I'm at this, like, you know, bed and breakfast, and it just happens to be the same place where he was at, right? Like, I don't know. That could be interesting or something, you know, get a, you know, 40-year-old actor to play him. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, there's enough to go through this. But yeah, it stands on its own.
Or he runs the bed and breakfast, whatever, because even though he says he's free, the woman in black calls him back.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's basically picking up for her.
Yeah, or like he's killing people.
For her.
Yeah, or doing, whatever.
Yeah.
Go for it. Do it.
I am typing.
But I'm typing that. We're going to make $12,000.
We're gonna make a whole $12,000 with this movie.
It does stand on its own in a weird sort of way that it shouldn't stand on its own. I feel like there was a moment where Daniel Radcliffe was rumored to have a cameo. How? I don't know.
I think it was going to be
a ghost or something.
Yeah, I think it was going to be like so. You see all like the ghost kids showing up.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and,
okay,
and
gotcha.
like where like in the water where people were pulling them down at the end, and like the late woman in black was watching. I think he was supposed to be part of that.
That would have been nice, especially like nowadays to have it, but like it also kind of would have cheapened it. In a way.
I think it would have cheapened the first movie too, because we get the idea that he's now in the afterlife and like their family is reunited.
That's true, they're reunited,
and then
so
to have them
stupid.
be these shades that are pulling people down. Like I don't.
And that's
think
why Daniel Radcliffe said no. Plus, he was too busy doing
good things,
doing Broadway.
making money.
What's our question for?
Would you watch this? Make you want to watch the first one?
This does not make me want to watch. This movie does not make me want to watch the first one.
If you watch this one first, you wouldn't go.
If I watched this one first, it doesn't. Having said that, if I watched the first one, which we did, it would make me want to watch the second one because the first one is very enjoyable. It's very enjoyable. It's not doing anything revolutionary, the first movie, but it is enjoyable, and it's something that I would probably revisit because it's Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah,
and it's gothic horror, and it's fine.
Yes.
But I'm not gonna revisit it anytime soon. But this movie does not make me want to watch the first one. You?
If this was the first one I had watched, I don't think I would watch the first one. I would assume it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you're right. Like the first one's great. I'm glad we've watched that one before. But like this one in and of itself would not have made me want to watch the other one.
Yeah.
Sum up your experience in 2 words.
Jump scare. This is jump scare the movie. Jump scare is the 2 words that there's so many jump scares in this movie. It relies on the fact that it's going to get you through jump scares, and the one creepy moment that happens really isn't that creepy. It's sort of creepy, and like I think I was like, let's watch the trailer before we watch the movie, and everything that was in the trailer was in the movie. And then some. Like it's like
all the biggest scares.
The biggest scares. And I'm like, ugh, Jesus. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so I'm like, when you watch the trailer and like those are kind of like your big scares, I'm like, this movie's not gonna be that great. This movie is like gonna be oh no. But again, like I think that people should, if you are going to watch this because of that you're a fan of the actors, and you've seen stuff that they've done, and you're like, I want to see this. Like I've done that where I've watched crappy stuff from actors that I like, and I'm like, oh okay, they did that. You know what I mean? But other than that, there's really no reason to watch women, except if you really want to know how to do generic jump scares.
Yes. So
to do a basic building block?
Yeah.
So like maybe if you're in Horror 101 and you're like, how do I do a jump scare? Watch this movie then. Yeah. Because it'll teach you.
It's the Boy Who Cried Wolf after a little while.
After a while you're like...
Well, it's like, when you... And again, like the whole point of a jump scare, you are already tense, you go, and psych them out, and then people go, ha 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 ha. Their levels come back down and they feel calmed, and then jump scare, like the real scare comes. Yeah, the real scare. Because all of a sudden it's not expected. That's how you heighten a scare that's not really that scary.
But like to the point where like even the ending when they are leaving and you're like, oh, the credits are going to roll because we see, nope, it slowly pans back. Yeah. When it slowly pans back to the apartment where they're at or wherever they're staying at. And you're like, oh, it's going to that photo. I bet it's going to do something. We're going to see it in the reflection. And boom, it happens. Yeah. Like when you can predict things. Yeah. Because it's not challenging you. It's not a good movie. And this isn't. So I'm kind of disappointed that this isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I was hoping it would be kind of like this is like an underappreciated gem.
Yeah, like an underrated movie that you're like, hey, have you seen Women in Black 2? Yeah. Oh, you should really see that because... And then people are like, oh, wow, I watched that. But there's nothing I can kind of grab on. Yeah. To this movie.
No. So, now my 2 words, like...
Oh, I guess you have 2 words.
Yeah, I do get those also. Sure. I didn't know how to say it necessarily, and so I thought I'm going to try this, but I'm going to use inflection to say what I have to say.
Go ahead. True.
Horror borer.
Horror borer.
Yeah.
Horror
borer. Yeah, it's not a horror.
Is this because you wanted to rhyme?
Huh?
You wanted to rhyme, didn't you?
I was trying to think of something to say.
You've been watching too much Nipsey Russell episodes of The Match Game.
I have been. Or that Nipsey
The
Russell
Women in Black.
That pilot that was the Nipsey Russell show
that
pilot
Nipsey
thing
Russell
that
pilot we watched
was just like 5 minutes of actual game show and 20 minutes of him
the
just
one that he
rhyming
hosted?
shit. Yeah.
That was better than this movie. All right.
the
Why horror borer?
why horror borer?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can kind of guess, but why?
Because, like, you know, even with, like, okay, even if you were doing jump scares, even if you were trying to get to the point where you were like, hey, we're going to do, you know, scarier stuff or pick it up, it never really picks up. It's so slow burn. Like, and the first one was slow burn, but it was more like...
But it's rewarding.
But it is rewarding. And this was a lot of, like,
it should be
slow
rewarding.
burn rewarded with nothing. And it was just rough. And even when there's, like, scary stuff with, like, the kids, like, okay, the stuff with, there's, of course, one of the kids that gets killed is, like, the oldest kid of the bunch. Like, you don't want to do it to little kids. They do it to the older ones, or kids who are assholes. And,
right.
Like, the first one, like, the girl is basically strangling herself with yarn, and then later she suffocates herself. And those moments should be pretty fucking creepy and scary, especially because, like, kids are these innocents that you're supposed to protect, and, like, you know, you get the feeling like you can't protect them and all this stuff. And I was just like, okay, like, do it.
Right.
It's just not
Well, it's not even so bad you can make fun of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even that.
No, it's not.
Because the acting's fine.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't even, like, laugh at it, like, through that, because you're just like,
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, when you watch a bad horror movie and you're like, well, at least I can make fun of this, and, like, that's how I can get through it. This is just painful.
Yes.
To watch, and so it's too bad, because there are people in this movie that are doing good work, including the director doing some Peaky Blinder episodes and stuff. So I would actually just look at the cast and look at what they're doing, and I would rather you watch their other stuff
on their things,
well. Yeah. So where can people find us, Jeremy?
People can find us at thejuicepodcast.podbean.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Google
Is Apple
Play.
Podcasts a thing? Or was it iTunes? Like,
well, yeah, instead of iTunes.
Is that Apple Tunes? What's it called now?
Apple Podcasts.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, that's the podcasting portion, because it's self-sustaining now.
Did they change it for Halloween? Is it bobbing for Apple's Podcasts?
No.
Okay. Probably because this is a terrible joke and we need to move forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Google Play. Or is it now Boogle Play? Stitcher.
Or Stitcher Up, Mummy.
What did you add the last part?
I don't know.
The Pod Knife. Self-explanatory.
No,
basically a lot of those podcatchers, we are on there. Also, you can find us at the No Phony Podcast Network, as well as all of our podcast mates. So go check those out.
Check out everyone on the No Phony Podcast Network.
Yes.
Do yourself a favor and thank your earbuds later.
Yes.
So I would say,
it's the Whitman sampler of podcast networks.
It is, or it's the Russell Stover sampler of podcasts.
Yes. We should go Russell Stover. It seems more high quality. The Whitman sampler.
It's the Kellogg's variety pack that you get for vacation.
Ooh, yeah.
Is that better? Is that better for you?
That's fun.
Corn Pops. Corn Pops.
It's one of those chip packs that you get for road trips.
I'm just trying to get to 50 minutes on this podcast. That's all I'm trying to do. We're getting there. So, you
gotta keep our sponsors happy.
Sponsors, keep
Do we have any sponsors?
happy. Yep. And also we are sponsored by KoolCoin, the cryptocurrency. KoolCoin. Everyone should get KoolCoin.
Cool coin.
So get yourself some cool coin today.
And brought to you by, oh shit, Women in Black 2. Oh
cool
no, what have I done?
All right, folks, remember the sequel is king.